Welcome, welcome to my lovely IHP community and the 5D Collective. We were chit-chatting a little bit about the Oversoul as I closed us out on our last episode. So I'm going to wrap it up in a bit of a late day IHP show. We'll see what the title will be, but love, it goes beyond a person, societal norms, and or the physical plane. And so when we do get the opportunity for the mystic community to meet that which is our oversoul between twin flame or flames and soulmates, that's the part we don't allow others to tell us what our relationships are, but we also don't get lost in a story. And so the fun part about being in the awareness for me is that I've consistently been allowed to notice things. Now, it's only a couple times that I've been completely oblivious. And that is because of, actually, if I had to explain it, it makes sense. But to get back to the main topic, which is love, is when you're a securely attached, self-empowered person, attached. Okay, so love isn't a person, societal stories or norms when you are a self-empowered, securely attached person. You can tune on into that one. And the dance of true love is with higher self, securely attached, mystic, spiritual, mindful peeps. You can listen to that one. And so two lovers who dance to the beat of true love, they will come together as my lovely, inspired, beautiful words for partner. Slow merengue, okay? And I know, not the food, the actual dance, which if you look at it, it's pretty cute. And then you move into a sway, and then you move into a nice, intriguing bachata, which gets a little bit more, so the flavors of people, you get to discover that in time, but that's only if you know what your flavor is. So what are you, okay? So you are going to need to love yourself first. And that is not going to happen if you need a person to help you reparent. And so when I see people with the twin flame tragedy or the changing it up, they completely just let me know that they're not mastering their masculine or their feminine. That they don't have an empowered partner or an empowered self. Because had they had that, they wouldn't need a story. They wouldn't keep using a story. They wouldn't keep changing it up. As people consistently expanded, they change it up. Now, it's not that they're changing it up, it's that every one of us makes sense of the things that take place in our lives. Some of us, we don't use words and labels in that way. This is the part of why expanding to polyamory, it's a word that I can use because that's what I expanded to. And it's a word that people will think means a bunch of things, but they won't ask with questions of curiosity. They will make blanket statements where they assume based on a one polyamory person or another. So not only do we have different words, so my solo polyamory dynamics moving to polyfidelity relationship and or relationships, but that doesn't involve specifics in a way of, so it means this is a, so people who are wanting to list out other people's relationships, to me it's a buffoonery, because why are you not paying attention to your own relationships? And if you're curious about other people's relationships, you ask them. Also, I, though, can maintain a sense of calm, centeredness, right, with my nervous system. That's that equanimity and discernment, wise, good judgment. Thank you, God, for that, with love. So what this means is being a functional child adult who can talk about it. And that's my physical mastery, my accountability, my awareness of Maria, my mindfulness awareness, and my regulation of my tone, which I actively, if I want to focus in on it enough, I can do that. I just don't always have to or want to, but that's the physical mastery. As an Akashic Record reader, by the way, I learned mental, emotional, physical mastery is what we hear to, as mystic and spiritual at least, to expand and embody and get into that oneness with the field. And I knew when I was finished pretty much with emotional and moving into physical. And so now physical is consistently what gets to expand. And therefore, it makes sense that you get to finally, once you are embarked on your own Dharma journey, and so you're conscious again, a higher self, you're aware, you are truly loving who you are. The beyond physical doesn't get confusing with the twin flame and or twin flames or soulmates. When you have downloads, when you see that which is where you came from, when you have astral travel dreams, the people who identify, they will give themselves stories. It's a 4D collective. So you don't stop having relationship with people from your oversoul. You don't even lose people. The ones who don't know how to handle differences are like flat earthers, so they isolate. Actively, they don't know healthy self-worth to have healthy self-acceptance conversations like Terry Real will present, so they're not functional adults. As long as you don't know how to be a functional adult, you don't know how to be a lover in the book of who is right here as a lover, teenage boyfriend. We're not going to do what our friends do. We're not putting our friends aside. I'm not jealous. When he cheated, I'm not checking your phone. I told you I'm not jealous. I have compersion already at the time. Yeah, I want you to be happy. That's my number one priority. And if at any point, shape, or form, I will not be of interest to you, I will be sad, but I will be glad to know that you'll tell me and it'll be done. And in fact, here's where your sadness isn't tragedy, when you're able to use your prefrontal cortex, and also when you're able to know rejection is not about protection. I'm teenage, my boyfriend's breaking up. Finally, after the month, I gave him a month. I said, okay, so what's your decision? Because it's been 4 years pretty much. You need to know. You can know. I already knew other things too. But he says these words, explicit memory. He says, when I wake up in the morning, I don't think of you anymore. And that was something we talked about, because see, this is the part of where your amygdala, like mine, it's not about it being technical. It's actually going to immediately, I learned this from interpersonal neurobiology. I have a number of courses with Dr. Daniel Siegel. So the average amygdala, the one that works for all of us, because it doesn't work the same. And it's on a chromosomal whatever level, and that's for another time. But the amygdala will alert you to that which is of interest to you. And that's also if somebody needs your help. But you can know that they do studies on 14-month-olds who will want to play with a teddy bear who likes the same cereal they do, and they will play hostile or not want to play at all with a teddy bear who does not like the same cereal but likes the cereal they don't like. And that's how they explain why we have this whole group thing. Then we also have people who get hooked on wanting to punish people, which is another sad story, because they don't need to. They can go heal themselves versus be Braveheart with trauma charges and think that they're actually doing the right thing. Adaptive child part people will always think that, and that's why their blind ego makes them blind. And I don't pay any attention to teenagers because Kusu is a liar, like my facade friend, and so are all the insecure human beings. Which is also why it doesn't matter if you're a twin flame or a soulmate. And it's because I can tell you all, thanks to Maria learning about twin flame and flames. No, I was reminded of ego at a certain point. It's because I am a person who's, okay, you're a person, I'm a person, you have an ego, I have an ego. And then I got attachment trauma informed. So long story short, the individuals who are not able to notice that the oversoul is an energetic imprint. You don't need a story. The ones who have a story, they're looking to be part of a group, and they've been changing up twin flame, divine counterpart, fake twin flame, to give themselves answers to something that essentially to me means the relationship isn't moving in the direction you want it to. They fit the bill of the push-pull fantasy dynamic. They fit the bill of one day they'll come and get me, the prince and queen and savior thing, and so it's an actual story of yesterday's news of tragedy, and for me again, teenager, I'm thinking none of this. The minute I'm hearing, I don't wake up to you. Okay, that's it, and moving forward. So I got to process it. Now, those who think of processing emotions as tragedy, it's not. You can call it post-traumatic growth if you want, but trauma is experienced by the person. My body does well with emotions using a prefrontal. So it's not the events, it's how your body engages. And with the DNA or genes, there's this thing called, I think it's, what is the word? Dr. Daniel Siegel, the glial or some glial cells, something like that. But there are those of us who have the capacity with these glial cells, I think, because in one of my dissociative identity disorder and disorganized attachment course with him, I got to hear about that, where we can feel more that deeply, and so that means we have a bigger window of tolerance. So that means we don't clinically dissociate. We all dissociate. It's more of, oh, I'm driving down the highway, Dr. Daniel Siegel gives the example, and I think of my trip to Hawaii, and oh, I get distracted and I miss my exit. But those who will tell you it's easier to die than to live, that is actual out-of-body clinical dissociation. And that is telling me you have been brought offline in your dorsal vagal, and that's because people who don't go and navigate their ventral vagal, on, off, sympathetic, dorsal vagal, sympathetic, dorsal vagal. And that's because your body needs to rest. So it actively has only learned 2 modalities because there was not a self-regulating in ventral vagal state, anchored in ventral energy, safe nervous system in your household. So you had no other option except for on, off, because that's how the body can protect you, because that it didn't have the capacity to use the other resource. In fact, with those who have developmental trauma from childhood developmental trauma, amygdala is affected, prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, and the corpus callosum. If I remember correctly, all of them. I might have confused some, but the corpus callosum connects the left and right, and it's not the amygdala, it's the hippocampus. That's right, it's the hippocampus. I always forget that, or I've been confusing the amygdala and the hippocampus, because the hippocampus is where new neurons can form, which is why if you use the bright sides of neuroplasticity, you can allow yourself to move towards integration, which is why the ventral vagal portfolio of toning exercises of yoga and the mindfulness practices support the integration. Those who don't understand the in-depth journey that is integration of brain and are afraid of it, that's the part of where cautiousness is great, talking, psychoeducation is great, but I'm not afraid. I learned from Dr. Daniel Siegel. It's quite straightforward. It is a process. Bethany Brand and Ruth Lanius, in their course, they explain when they get asked, do we have to, integrate? No, you don't have to. It's not. So the reason for so many individuals who are experts sharing their courses, sharing their training material with professionals that are self-help, but with those who are therapists, is because of it being something we want more people to be able to help each other with. But seeing people who don't get healed and think of their self as providing information when they're pseudo-alive, this is where I'm bringing back the clinically dissociated person on a screen reading to me or confusing things. You're only there for the Peter Pans and the Lost Boys and the Wendy's because you don't want to actually go heal yourself. So you have a group, great. You're like the flat earthers. That's not a silverback that I would want to be around. But then again, that alone, even silverback, really? So I don't think of actually our world moving towards idiocy. I know who will be silverback to who, and then I know who is in because that's how the world works. I'm not an idiot in the sense of not aware of how structure is. And the ones who want it to happen overnight, they're the ones who don't remember how history is built. And that's because when you're in a charge, though, you're not really thinking. So anger and the certainty of anger dumbs people down to think superficially. And when they're using stereotypes and all of that, that's exactly why. They're not actually thinking of anything. It's a very reductive, boring conversation. It's also uninteresting. I'm not great with remembering all data points of anything in general, but I love to explore, which is where I like my colleagues, the ones who are curious and open, accepting and loving and aware, and that they are also, what was it, Dr. Dan, that they are aware and connected within themselves. But the other ones, there's never been a medium ever. So whenever I'm in the presence of limited consciousness, I'll notice, because it's almost like a little dick competition, which makes me actually think nothing more than, can we grow the fuck up? What do you think? Vagina dick competition, what are you doing? And that's because I don't find envy, jealousy, spite, or small limited consciousness intriguing. I find that they could do way more, but that they're reducing their mechanisms to a physiological response of doing some bullshit that is a 3-year-old. And so, like I said, this is where their small energy brings out their little Dennis the Menace attitude, but it's not something that I need to do anything about. I just know that I guess we're done having what was an actual conversation of any interest, because you just decided, no, you didn't, but something happened and you're not aware enough to notice what happened. Let me pause and wait, let's talk about the vulnerability that just came up. And that's only if you're aware, accountable, again, and regulating in the way of, I have child parts like everybody else does, and this is because you own, though, the state of selves, all of them, the exiles, protectors, because this is where we have internal family system model. We have the others who use dissociative identity disorder and that group, or I don't know all the organized, but point is, people who will take ownership don't tell you, my inner child needs this. It's a person who's a grown-up is talking to the person. With their therapist, they tend to that part. They process and metabolize. They expand their window of welcome. As for in a partnership, you don't bring to me the therapy's verbiage, if you will. I don't need you to dress it up, which is what I see when people are giving people tips on how to handle an avoidant, how to keep the avoidant, how to handle the ambivalent, how to keep the, excuse me. I don't need to be trained on that. I'm a securely attached person. I'm looking for secure attached, not person who's going to bring to me something that I need to handle. I'm not your parent again, and I'm not you. You want to handle you, and here's where the polyamory doesn't make you securely attached, nor the monoamory. It's you do. You won't be a lover unless you are a lover of yourself. So it goes beyond a person, because it's your 1-year-old. Do you know how to be a person who can regulate your nervous system? All of it. 0, 1, 3 to 7. That's shame, submissive, freeze of all ages, flight 11, 12, fight 14, 15, 16. Do you have your child parts asleep, and do you know how to, when they come up, take ownership? Not telling me, oh, my 1-year-old came into the room, so I need you to do it. Not like that. No, because like Dr. Daniel Siegel in one of my other courses, he's like, once you're a whole self, you just know your 1-year-old wants a hug. I've never even bothered with all these words until I learned of them, and I can identify when I am with those child parts now. But that's only because I know the words. It was given to me, and they have an energetic imprint. Had it not been given to me, I would just know, oh, look, I want a hug because I'm upset today. Does it help? Yeah, it does help to have words. But I'm not going to be like, you need to give my child part a hug. I will feel ridiculous doing that, because I'm not the child. I'm the grown-up. I'm the one who's holding the child's hand. If anything, I'm the one who's learning to get that nervous system and that prefrontal, so the other person can be aware that I'm sensitive, I'm emotionally sensitive, something's coming up, I'm destabilized, I am being, frazzled because of me needing to face something that I'm afraid of. So, you talk. That's how it works, if you will, for those of us who are looking to be in truly, again, grown-up relationships. And with that being said, empowered masculines, empowered feminines, it's not man, woman, it's people who are empowered with both of those energetic imprints within themselves, and then together they complement and they create a truly beautiful way to share with humanity overall what healthy love is like. Terry Real is doing a great job at getting functional adults. Patrick Tian at getting inner children reparented to get their inner adults to hold their hand, and then to be able to not bring forth any of that trauma within their own households. And those who don't care to do any of it, they're going to keep on doing. We perform when we are in a relationship. Make sure to ask those punishing questions, just in case he's waiting the 3 months so he can fuck you, and then feel disgust, contempt towards you, and shame. And remember, don't think of it. Wedding bells. So, drop. Is that a repeat? Did you just do the repeat? Is that, you noticed you have a pattern. You want Akashic records. I see. So anything to do with therapy by any chance? Did we not notice family patterns? I'm just going to put it out there. I don't want to be that one. We can do Akashic record readings. We can do the interfamily stellar thing. I'm working on that one too. We can do all of it. But do we have any good EMDR, child parts work, somatic, sensory motor therapists in mind that could accompany the journey of that which requires your full participation, so that you can completely stop trying to make it work out with that which is not your fault, and that you are still, again, ignoring. So trying to save one's own self while also bringing forth the maladaptive patterns of behavior and the bad habits that you brought. No, you didn't bring it. Where is you? Patrick Tian has a good share today. Besides that one, all childhood trauma is relational. If we don't explore our reactions from our past and the impact they have on those around us, the messy disaster just repeats. So people who don't go to a person like Patrick Tian to become lovers of themselves first will simply do, again, this thing of, so twin flames, yes, a real thing, soulmates as well. But if you are an empowered feminine, you will not be thinking of those who you get into a relationship with. And again, actually, I'm going to spell this one out. Thankfully, I'm here for those of you who have the oversoul, because I didn't have the, please keep it human, because they have an ego, they have a self, and they have a nervous system most of all. And if they don't actually care to get themselves to therapy, they're going to just walk around with stories in their mouth. That's all. So, for me, it was pretty simple. Silent treatment isn't anything more than a person who's a coward who doesn't know how to talk. and I've met them before, so I'm not impressed, and I'm also not somebody who's going to be like, let me shame you. No, because you will have consciously made a decision. I don't need to know your whys. I just know you've made a decision. Even if it's a structurally dissociated one, you still will, in my book, unaware, made a decision. And that's the part of where self-awareness, accountability, regulation. We want to make conscious free will decisions for those of us who have a whole self. Some say we don't have free will. Some say it's just conscious. And some say it's just no self at all. And so conscious will, however you will talk about it, it's in your prefrontal. Those are lovers because they also aren't boring. They know how you make always anything work if you want it to work, because that's where love is easy. It's not a performance, but that's, again, something that you will learn only if you have healthy self-worth and you're an empowered self who has securely attached and has self-acceptance, which means I can be crooked, you could be crooked. I unconsciously love my own self with flaws and imperfections and Yous and I's have both integrity, though. And so we won't be lying or hiding or doing no, and we won't be yelling. We'll be talking, and we'll be laughing, and we'll be having fun. And really, there isn't any relationship that you can't have a good time with when you are empowered, because, again, the tone might not be always in the equanimous, but you'll learn how to be there because you're it in the anchored ventral energy. And so the partnership, there's trust that's built with two people who trust their own self, their own intuition, their own, and they're therefore not breaking down barriers in a way of, I need to get into this roller coaster. No, I don't have barriers with you. I have vulnerabilities with you that I will gradually, as I am in fact noticing, this is really awesome, I'm going to gradually want more of our connection, because that's feeling really good, because we're safe haven, secure base for each other. That's love. So it doesn't get boring. It actually enriches. You find your own rhythm and rhyme, and it's mentally, emotionally, and physically stimulating, which is why it goes beyond, to this day, a person, the norms, the societal culture, all the words in the book, and beyond the physical plane. And on that note, as I shared, divine counterparts can only be divine when you have two pieces of consciousness. That means two human beings who are their whole self, because that's when I am able to be a verb who's consistently expanding with another. And that's not just in the love frequency because I and they have a relational field that's expanding with love. It's because we each know how to navigate our nervous system, and we want healthy self-soothing mechanisms and self-regulation skills. And so mindfulness is something we do. Mindsight skills is something we have, and we don't deny if there's areas where we have a challenge. So there's no let me leave and ignore the areas that I'm struggling with. Anything hard, when you're sifting through sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts, that's okay. How do we address hard and move it towards not as hard until we get to whatever it is? Because you're not meant to feel life as hard in the body. You're meant to feel life as it is with the ventral vagal state. And I have read to you, but we will use that one. That way, anybody who didn't tune into those can understand the nervous system from the ventral vagal state, because that master class is where you would navigate doors. The sign-up sheet, it's a sign-up sheet if you want. Email me. And for one-to-one mentorship as well, you can email. For video exercises is once we have a certain number of subscribers, paid subscribers on Fanbase or Spotify. And when the tiers are out, we'll move it all over here for now on YouTube. That's where Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spotify for creators, you name it, like 11 other platforms. The ventral vagal state. In this state, you will engage socially and connect and co-regulate with others. You will feel calm, curious, grounded, and safe. Okay, so that's the ventral vagal state. While sympathetic, you will feel fear, panic, irritation, anger, or even rage. You will mobilize into fight or flight response or an attached cry for help response. While the dorsal vagal, you will have collapse, shut down, body immobilize, and you will feel numb, depressed, and shamed, hopeless, or lethargic. And you also may dissociate. And then we have that, which was this. So when you're in a window of tolerance, you will feel like you can deal with whatever's happening in your life. You might feel stress or pressure, but it doesn't bother you too much. This is the ideal place to be. When, on the other hand, you're in hypoarousal, you're spacey, zoned out, numb, frozen, your body wants to shut down. It's not something you choose. These reactions just take over. While hyperarousal, anxious, angry, out of control, overwhelmed, your body wants to fight or run away. It's not something you choose. Again, these reactions just take over. So when I get into a bit of a, one could say, my window of tolerance is when I'm being brought to have things take place that put my body into physical danger, but it's not real danger. It's just that I am concerned. That's my motivate. That's my subcortical area. So when it's happened, I notice it, but it's not ever in a way that is completely offline. So when people learn to navigate themselves and then they bring each other to each other, again, it's a really good thing. And if they need extra, they get help with a good therapist. That's why they're there. And on that note, thank you for stopping by. Like, share, and subscribe. It'll help the channel grow. And I hope you have a great one.